Welcome to the Divine Mess, a sanctuary where the dance of the empowered masculine and the divine feminine unfolds in all its glory. Join us as we delve into the heart of these cosmic energies, exploring their attributes and the profound impact they have on our lives. From the raw power of the masculine to the nurturing embrace of the feminine, we uncover the balance that leads to a life of abundance and joy. Our hosts, Kurti Deva Perriman and Tina Ryan, are your guides on this spiritual journey who blend science with soul to offer practical wisdom for harnessing your divine energy. We celebrate the beauty and imperfection, embracing the chaos of life's journey as a catalyst for growth. The Divine Mess isn't just a podcast, it's a movement towards wholeness and self-expression. So come laugh with us, cry with us, and grow with us. Every episode is an invitation to explore the depths of your being and to live out loud, authentically, and unapologetically. Subscribe and join our community of seekers as we support each other in this extraordinary, messy adventure we call life.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening. Welcome to the Divine Mess. This is yet another reflection episode. So if you have missed last week, please go back and listen. We'll speak about our guests. And like this year, we decided to open our virtual couch to guests. And like every single week, the following week, we do a reflection on them. And if you don't know about whom we are speaking about yet, don't worry. I will tell a little bit more info about them later. But before that, I would like to introduce one of our co-hosts, Mrs. Tina Marie. Should I say Mrs.? Oh, I don't know now. See, I messed it up now. This is called the Divine Mess. So welcome to this.
You're good.
So Tina Marie is a self-love coach. She's a busy mom, as well with four teenagers, boys. And she has so much fun with them that yesterday she ran 50K with them. That's what she said. Oh, no, it's not that. Sorry, I messed up again. See, that's what's happening.
8
No, I'm kidding.
yesterday. 8.
So as you can hear, we have a lot of fun on the Divine Mess. It's all about speaking about spirituality in fun and practical tips like we give and practical way as well. So I'm Kirti Deva Perman. If it's your first time listening, I'm the cosmic alchemist at the Golden Temple, where we help you to transmute love and transmute fear into love, rather. And we have fun doing it. And like every week, we have fun conversation with Tina. And this year we decided to open our virtual couch. And last week we had Michelle Steiner, and she is a para-educator, and she brought a wealth of knowledge and experience about disability, and she has also written a few impactful articles that have been features on the Mighty or Nonverbal Learning Project. She's a fierce advocate living with an invisible disability, and in last week's episode she shared her story of resilience, creativity, and empowerment. So I will leave to Tina the floor, right, to share her thoughts. How did she find the episode, or what did she learn about Michelle's story?
I think it was interesting coming from being in a space of parenthood with a child that most educators would put a label on, and navigating what that mess looks like. But I really enjoyed Michelle's perspective because her aim was to help one child at one point in time to make them feel the best they could in that given situation, that it might be frustrating and annoying that they can't learn, or that they just learn in a different way. It's not a can't, it's just that they learn in a different way. Their mind sees it in a different way. Their body, eyes just don't process the information in the same way that all the other children do. But much like I have said to my now 16-year-old son, this is a superpower. This is, you don't think like everybody else. And that's a really great thing. But, especially Michelle works obviously with a lot younger children. and helping them navigate through that space. And I think using that image of a superhero and showing how she does it in showing these children that there's something super unique and super special about them that makes them not better, but just on another plane to other people. But I think from her perspective, being able to share their frustrations in knowing what they're going through and how frustrating it is. And like she said, don't ask me to do math. I don't do math. I can do everything else. She can write beautifully and she articulates herself so well on what it is like to move through that space. But because she had two amazing parents that advocated for her in saying, well, our daughter's perfectly capable. You just need to make accommodations so that she can do what everybody else does. I think it's the one thing, like if you have a parent who is stand up advocating for their child in getting essential services, in getting additional help, so that they can fulfill their purpose as to why they're here, then their streets are in front of other people. And yeah, as a parent, it's really frustrating to have a child that struggles with learning and that wants to beat their head against the kitchen table when they're trying to do their homework. But at the same time, we need to adjust our way of doing things that simply, the way we learn doesn't necessarily work for them. So it's about us coming to terms with it in a better way so we can help our children come to terms with how they see the world in a better way. But that's my parental rant. But, I applaud people like Michelle going out there and making an absolute difference and finding her crew of people. Like she said, she found her book writing club and, she's able to share what it's like when you have something that doesn't enable you to participate like everybody else. But because it's not a broken arm or, missing digits off your hand or, you're missing a leg or people can't see. So they don't want to understand. Like, unless it directly impacts them, people are so quick to judge others. And I think that's what Michelle came up against when she was trying to go to college and to get assistance. And she was having to deal with her own shame and guilt when it came to getting the help that she needed to ensure that she flourished in the career that she chose. But if the universe is offering things up on a platter, people, what do we do with it? We take it. We say, thank you, and I'll take some more. Thank you very much. But surely that's the art of surrender, is it not?
Think you
Mr.
will
David?
the first thing you will do is say, how did this happen? How? When the universe is offering this platter, we often go into that mode like, how did this happen? And we always question the how. And when it's brought to us, we are like, oh, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that. Like we start doubting it. But I think like in Michelle's story, like it's a brilliant, another story of resilience, of course, and surrender. Of course, we had to implement this word, like to say this word, surrender, because she could have like given up on every step, like, and because just saying like that word, like being labeled with disability, and we were having a chat before the recording about labeling, as our listeners know, if it's the first time now, you know that we are really allergic to that word, like labeling, and we don't agree to that. Uh, by we, I mean me and Tina, like we don't abide to that at all. And Michelle was one example like she didn't agree at all. It's like she was asking everyone who was questioning her, like, who are you to tell me that I can't do that? Like even getting her degree, even like when her lecturer will say, "Oh, I don't think you will be able to do that." Like I don't see that. It's like, who are you to tell me what can I do? For me, it remind me of one famous football American player, like Brady, and there's a documentary about him. I think 52 is his number or something. Um, it's known as he was the last one pick in the draft, and the journalist interviewing him read his, like how in the US, like they scout the potential players to come to play for the big teams, and they read his bio, and it was like skinny, too slow, not fast enough, or whatever. And he said, like, who are you to tell me who am I? Like he was questioning that. And I felt like Michelle's story was about this as well, because she never focused on the external, on what the world was telling her. She rather focused on her internal and belief and say, and with the support of like a community, including her parents, she managed to overcome all the odds and become a para educator, for example, and understanding what they are everyone's going through, and to have that empathy and to have this understanding, it's priceless. And when you can see someone when you are going through the same thing, and as coaches, both of us, we often say, yeah, I can understand what you're going through, I can hear what you're going through, I can feel. And sometimes people look at us, our clients will say, oh no, you don't. Actually, we do, because we went through it, maybe not the same situation, but we understand the feeling. We understand how it felt, how it looked, how it was like, maybe what kind of thoughts you were having during those times. And that, because often it happened when I tell my clients, like, this is what maybe you're thinking. And they were like, how do you know? Are you like in my mind? Or I'm like, no, I'm not a mind reader. But I feel like with Michelle helping those kids, she's able to understand what they are feeling and how they are seeing the world. And I feel it's so important to have an inspiration like her in the world to define all the odds, like Nick Vujicic, no arms, no leg,
Mhm.
but he can actually swim. He play golf. He's a motivational speaker, and it's just amazing what people can do. And it's about asking you, like, for me, it's also a reminder of acceptance. It was like a brilliant reminder to accept people how they are and to go with it. Like to see them from that divine perspective, and see that everyone is love and everyone is that light that we talk about.
But also too, that the Almighty doesn't make mistakes, right? The universe doesn't make mistakes. Like we're created. I'm reading Conversations with God, hence the reason for the terminology. But we're all created in a divine image so that the universe can have a human experience through us. We just need to remember our own divinity. And I think that's what Michelle gives every single one of those children that she touches, is that divinity spark, like the don't forget who you are, like creates a remembrance within them. And it's enough for them to start to walk a little taller and to feel a little better about themselves. But that's what she's doing in the role that she's chosen to undertake in this lifetime, is to provide that spark for those children and for every other person that she touches, every parent that messages into her blog about, this is what my child's doing. I don't know how to help, so she's providing practical solutions through the work that she's doing, so that these gorgeous little humans remember where they've come from and what their purpose is. So that for me is just, it's a warm, fuzzy feeling, isn't it? You just feel good about what someone is doing in the world. But it's also that gentle reminder for all of us is, don't accept people at face value. You've got no idea what goes on behind their doors every day. You don't know what's going on for them. And if they're coming into work or they're coming into school and they're not your cup of tea, let's say, they're probably dealing with a whole host of stuff that you've never had to deal with in your life. So don't be judgmental, and perhaps extend a hand out and say, you look like you're having a bad day, can I help? Because how often do we reach out instead of expecting others to reach out to us? How often do we extend our hand out and say, would you like a cup of tea? Or would you like a chat? You look like you need to download some stuff to get rid of some stuff. Or can I handle that for you while you go and frog march around the block and just work it out for yourself and then come back and have a conversation? Just be kinder. Like, we're also ready to place labels on people. Oh, he's at this or she's at that. How about we see what they are mirroring to us about our own insecurities, fears, judgments, you name it. There's a whole laundry list of crap of our own that we try and layer on other people. How about we don't do that? How about we're a little kinder to ourselves? Tell the green gremlins to sit down and be quiet, and then maybe we can help someone else do that too.
Yeah, it's like you said, you don't know what everyone is going and what's their, like challenges behind closed door, like we like to say. And especially when you're working, at the time now that you're working with people coming in your door, and you see them and you can't like literally put a label on them. You judge them and you have to accept them as they are and whatever they are presenting in that moment. And I feel like nowadays we have forgotten how to hold space for each other. And I noticed that especially with some of my acquaintances, I would say now. Yeah, because the moment you stop holding that space for them and start getting like snappy or at you because they don't have an emotional dump now, and people don't like that anymore, like they don't know where to go then. And that's where I feel like sitting with your thought is important as well, part of the learning curve. It's about getting comfortable, but it's not always dumping on someone else, because it's about a two-way conversation. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like with Michelle's story as well, when she's sharing with the kids, especially, she's having a two-way conversation. It's not just them dumping on her, like the emotional aspect going on. And in our life, we have spent so much time now scrolling that we keep forgetting to look within ourselves and to read the book within ourselves and to take time for us. And it's sad to see that, like for me it's like it's sad to hear that and to even say that. But it's about now, how can we make it better for each other? And that's what I keep asking. My question is like, to the universe is like, how can I serve you? And whenever I see someone, I look for the divine within them, and like, how can I serve you better? How can I show up better for you? And how can we serve each other?
Yeah.
And that's what we can do as well. And we keep asking those questions. And the more you ask those questions, the more you will find, like the answer that you have been looking for in, in others, but the answers are within you.
Yeah, and not to, bring it back to the current book of the week, but, are your decisions to cut someone out based on fear or based on love? Any decision that you're making, what's its basis? Because there's really only two. There's two choices. So, are you loving that person for who they are? And sure, you might choose to step away from them because who they are presently doesn't serve your present motivations for where you want to go and who you want to be. But it doesn't mean that you can't wish them well, send them love, be thinking of them. It just doesn't mean that they have to live in your pocket. But if you're basing that decision on fear, then you're going to be going around telling everybody that, oh, they're this and they're that, and I can't stand them because they're toxic and they're narcissistic and they're, all the labels yet again. But what you see in them is something you don't like about yourself. So heads up, people. It's time to have a little bit of a look in the mirror and see what we love about ourselves. But we're our own limiting factor. We are the only obstacle. We are the only thing that is preventing us from getting where we need to go. So when was the last time you picked up a book? You're obviously listening to podcasts because you're tuning into us. So that's a good start. But when was the last time you conversed with someone that you don't know? That you asked them, a question about, where do you come from? Tell me about you. What's your story? Everybody's got a story, but you have to be curious enough to ask the question. And I think that's what Michelle does well, is she has a curiosity about these kids and about what's their number one frustration and how can we look at that frustration from a different perspective to not necessarily make the job easier, because learning, let's face it, is tricky and challenging at the best of times, whether we are labelled normal or not. Sometimes there are some things that get given to us and we go, oh, I can only take that in bite-sized chunks because that really hurts my brain. But sometimes it's hearing it through someone else's filter that makes it make sense. Like, I'll message Dave about this book and going, oh my God, my brain is hurting reading this book. Can you please help me here? And so he puts it in his delightful Mauritian French speaking way. And then I go, oh, okay, it's not so bad. Makes life easier, right? So I think sometimes we require a filter that isn't our own because it has our own bias and our own crap attached to it. So, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I think that's the one thing we took away from Michelle. And don't judge, because they could have a much better superpower than you and you're judging them because you think they're lacking. Where are you lacking? No one's perfect, kids. All we're trying to do is just create a remembrance within ourselves as to who the hell we are and why the hell we're here. Simple.
It's funny, like you were mentioning about labeling, and this weekend, so by the time of the recording at the past weekend, I had someone sent me a quote about ADHD, and it says like attention dialed to a higher dimension. That's what ADHD, and I
Yeah,
love,
I love that.
that. Yeah, it's amazing, like how you can, like those ADHD, or I don't know, I forgot about those terms, but it's like, and you can change it to something that's working for you. And it's just like Michelle, she says invisible disability. Like that's how she put it. She doesn't, she chose to accept herself, acknowledge, yes, this is how you are seeing it. But the way I'm saying it, it's my special ability. It's like that superpower. And you were talking about also, like looking in the mirror. And one of the pioneer or mirror work is Grandma Louise, Louise Hay. If you first time listening, I call her Grandma Louise. And she wrote a book, Life Loves You, along with Robert Holden, who who wrote like Shift Happens. And it's a funny book. I bet you will love it because there's some term in that you will love it. Shift happen. So in Tina's world, it's already changes. I know it's already changed. There's another term. I can't say it here, or else we'll be banned even from YouTube now. I feel. But it's she to, Robert Holden was telling a story in there. So they had a dinner when he first met Louise, and it was like with a family friend, and they had it like a 18-month old baby. And each time they were speaking, he would go to the mirror and kiss himself and come back. And then it happened the first time, no one noticed, but Robert was observing. And he kept doing it a few more times. Now everyone was looking at him. And then he pulled his dad in, which was Robert's friend. And the dad was reluctant to do that. And and Robert and Louise had that moment looking at each other and say, okay, where's that coming from? Because Robert was questioning Louise about that. And she was saying, like, we tend to forget at when we were young, it find easier to go to the mirror and kiss, and give us a kiss and say, I love you. But when we grew up with so much filter and those adult filters, like that's not unnecessary put by society, all of that, we find it more difficult. And that's where mirror work come into place, where Louise Hay learned from her therapist about doing that, about saying I love you, or even starting with I'm willing to love you, I'm willing to learn how to like you, even those simple terms, and get comfortable with that. And I feel like your question about like what am I lacking also, it's like it's a strong question, like when if you're coming from the critical mind, it will be like, oh yeah, that's really uncomfortable. But if you are coming from the acceptance mind and say, okay, where can I improve? Like what can I do better? And if you come from that perspective, because if you listen to, I'm referring a lot of athlete because I really into sports because that's my metaphor for nearly everything. But it's like when they don't say like, oh, this is where I'm lacking, or um, because I remember one famous NBA player said like every one journalist said, "Did you fail this year?" And he replied to, "It's Giannis," and he replied to and said, "So when you're coming every year and asking me this question and you didn't get promoted, does that mean you failed this year? Because you keep asking me that every year you ask me, I didn't win the championship, hence I failed. And you keep asking me if I failed. But it's not about that." He was saying like, where can I improve? What can I work on? But as a team, where can we grow? If you're working with a team, so as human, we tend to look at failures. And if you listen to Michelle's story, she never view anything, any setback as a failure. She was looking at it as, oh, how can I bounce back? How can I improve? It was like an opportunity. And I feel as well now, getting more an understanding that every challenge is like a gift from the universe. It might feel, I think Ra said it, it's like that wrong package, like it's wrong package, but yet it got delivered to you. But now it's about asking you, like, what's that blessing teaching me?
Yes, that's exactly when we start dealing with 14-year-old children who think that their chores are unfair or that it's unjust, that he's got one more job than me. And I'm going, okay, what can I learn about patience in this moment? And so I threw it back and I go, okay, explain to me the injustice. Explain to me where you feel it's unfair, or if you don't like the list that I've drawn up, draw up a better one. Draw up something that you feel would be more just and that would work, but so long as every single one of those jobs on that chart get done. I don't mind how it gets done, where it gets done. I don't mind if you outsource, but I'm not paying for the outsourcing. Come back to me with some feedback so we can actually have, as Brene Brown calls it, let's have a rumble. Let's work through our, the list that I've drawn up. That could have been my shitty first draft. And the same for these tiny wee humans. They're creating shitty first drafts in their heads about where they're feeling like they don't fit in, or the reasons why they don't fit in, or the stories they're telling themselves. What's the story you're telling yourself? Why? Where does that come from? And what we've all learned is that from 0 to 8 is the most important time in a child's development, because that's where they make up all the stories about who they are, which carries them into adulthood. So if we, as parents, as grandparents, as aunts, as uncles, as godparents, teachers, educators, sporting coaches, if we have an opportunity to impact and influence young people before they turn 8, to help them create a remembrance of their own divinity, then I think we're on the right path. So people like Michelle, and if you see people like Michelle working in your community, thank them. Thank them for their time and their efforts, because normally they're underpaid and overworked and not truly appreciated for the things that they're doing for your children. Perhaps take a day off, go and sit, see what they do, learn their techniques, so that you can implement that at home for your own children and for the kids in your own community, your neighbours' kids, whatever. But I think we need to be acting more in a community-based mindset as to the skills and the attributes that have God-given skills and attributes. Don't waste them. Help someone out. See how someone else works. See where you can implement that in your own family, in your own workplace, for that matter. You're with these people on a really regular basis. Ask some questions instead of judging things at face value. And I think that for me was one of the biggest things I took away from the episode with Michelle, is the book jacket reveals nothing of what is inside the chapters. What are the words? What is the meaning inside of that? And that I'm forever grateful for, because I see people differently now, and I look at them differently, and I have a different attitude, even towards my 14 and 12-year-old children who don't pull their weight as much as they should, because they're developing all those things for themselves. I'm the person steering the ship at the moment, so I need to be mindful about who I am and how I portray myself. I can't expect them to be brilliant adults if I don't portray being a brilliant adult, or how to conduct myself better. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I feel like every mom, they need to be reminded that they are doing a good job, and that also their children has their own journey. And I feel like Michelle as well talk about that in her, like in her episode, like how she had to focus on her journey and stop like looking at others, and with the support of the parents. And I feel like every parents are doing the best, no matter how they are doing it. Doesn't matter. We all believe that the kids came with a manual, but like the Almighty, like you said, from conversation with God, didn't send that manual. or
Mm-mm-mm.
it's not getting downloaded, or it's too large, to be sent through. But it's about
Oh,
allowing, I think, to receive the guidance from the divine as well. I feel like for Michelle's story, she has been guided all through her way by just
yeah.
allowing and accepting any setback, like I said, or any challenge as a gift, and say, okay, where can I go next? And we
And a
had
great
been,
faith. I
yeah.
think that's for a lot of our guests, their faith is the thing that holds them in great stead.
Mm. And I agree with that, because it's your faith or spiritual, practices that keep you going, like no
Yeah.
matter what. It can be simple as thank you, thank you, or I appreciate this. Like I appreciate someone, like you were saying, saying to someone, I appreciate what you're doing. It doesn't matter if they have a disability or not, but it's like everyone had their own special ability, and it's about appreciating that and
Yeah.
putting emphasis on that all the time,
Mhm.
and focusing on that, because we can see the world um as wrong as is going, like people talk about wars and all of that, and I see all the greats being asked about that, like you see Grandma Dolores being asked, like, what's happening with the wars, like why. You will see, like when you read Conversation with God as well, there's that question, like, why was happening, like, if God is here, and we are not here to question your
Faith.
faith, whatever you believe in, even atheists, it's about you believe in something. Like even if you say you don't, it's not about the higher power. You believe that there's nothing out there. That's your belief, and we respect that and we appreciate that. And that's what I like about our show is we had a range of people coming in from different part of the world with different abilities, and each one of them has left us, like Godsmack in a way. Like you're like, where that coming? Because when you read their bios, no matter what bio is sent, for me, I was like, yeah, there's always something bigger behind that. When we in every episode we can read their bio, we can talk about their bio, but there's deeper meaning behind that. And I feel that
Bio is
that's
what,
what,
300 words?
yeah.
300 words tells you nothing about the essence of a person, right? Your bio, my bio, they don't share the essence of the person. It's not until you start having a conversation. And we know through having our intro conversations before we actually come to a recording that 9 times out of 10, that conversation and the one we have on our recording is nothing alike whatsoever. So we're literally peeling back a layer or half a layer of somebody, the depth of their understanding in their chosen field, in the things that they like to do. We barely scratch the surface in an hour. So if you apply that to the people that are around you, when was the last time you asked somebody a really good question? So you gained a deeper understanding of them and yourself at the same time. So I think that's where I will leave it today. Go ask somebody a really juicy, good question. And hopefully that might prompt a different conversation than you've ever had before. See where it takes you.
And I feel you can ask yourself that question as well, like not just everybody out there, but just go ask yourself a powerful question. And if you're finding it hard, go back to listen to this episode again or our previous episodes, because we're present on several platforms that you can't miss us now. So we're really proud of
So
this.
exciting.
Yeah, I feel like on that note, thank you everyone for listening, for tuning in. Please go back and listen to Michelle's episode of last week. We do have links if you want to connect and know more about how she's serving the world. And I'm pretty sure there's the book club as well that she's running. This is a great idea, I feel. If you have one book that you can create a community around it, please go
Yeah.
for it. I know I'm part of a few of them, and it's great conversation that come out, because just like Tina is reading Conversation with God and I did read it before, not the same perspective. And that's what sparked great conversation with
Yeah,
each other, because you can bounce off ideas and you can create that book club if you want to as well. So thank you everyone for
absolutely.
listening, and I will leave the last few words for Tina.
We love you. Thank you so much for sharing your most precious resource, which is your time. And we look forward to having you back on the couch with us next week. But until then, take really good care. We look forward to hearing from you. Bye for now.
Thank you.